Every Saturday, Gore Park in Hamilton, Ontario comes alive. Volunteers unload carloads of food and set up stations throughout the park. Produce is sifted through to create bags of fruits and vegetables that are easy to hand out. Boxes of shelf-stable food fill the pantry section along with baked goods and even boiled eggs. Bags of milk are lined up ready to distribute, to serve the more than 800 people patiently waiting in lines that wind through the park and around the corner.
You know, a lot of people ask us, are you a food bank? Are you, what exactly are you? We are actually a community center. We built this based on the assumption that we want to help people. Our motto has always been we serve with kindness, compassion, and without judgment. All we ask all our guests, and they're not our clients, they're our guests, we ask them, you know, just line up and be courteous to one another, and we will help you to the best of our ability.
First to arrive Saturday mornings is the coffee.
Can I just have a flat teacher? Yes.
So we serve between 250 and 320 cups of coffee every Saturday morning. And we've gone up to as close as 400 on some really busy days.
Yeah.
So it was getting cold and there were some days, so we decided to serve some coffee while people were waiting in lines. You may know that the line starts at noon, sometimes a bit earlier, so we tend to come here about 2 hours earlier and just sort of help people stay warm during the long lineups, or just serve them a little bit of coffee and a little bit of company through their greeting, just as they would sort of expect the same kind of service if they were going to Tim Hortons or Starbucks. So there's just that small pause in their morning. We ask how their day is, how they like their coffee, and just sort of bringing our community together. So often Barb would be somebody who would know what they want for coffee before they're actually approaching the line, and just even those small gestures let them know that they're seen and that they're cared for and that we know what they like.
Jeffrey Ning started Gore Park Community Outreach during COVID, when food banks and community meals were limited for health measures.
So I spoke to 5 of my friends and says, you know what, I think we're being called to Gore Park. So we started on February 13, 3 years ago, in the middle of winter. So we had to fight our way just to get into the park. And on that particular day, we served 35 people that are literally calling Gore Park their home. We were just going to do it for about 8 to 10 weeks because we figured, like anything else, COVID will be over, you know, like the flu. Did not happen. But on our very last day, and this is where I think the real story of Gore Park. On our very last day, we noticed that there's a lot more people than people are living around Gore Park that's coming. And a very nice senior came to me and tapped me on the shoulder while we were cleaning up. Her name was Wendy, and she asked me if there's any food left over. And so I noticed that she was shy. She was embarrassed. She wasn't making any eye contact, so she was constantly just looking at the ground. So I said to her, ma'am, I do have some food left over. I'll be more than happy to share it to you. And she said to me, I have no money to pay you. And that was the only time when she looked at me, and I was appalled by what I saw. She was literally skin and bones. She told me her struggles with daily life, struggles about whether to pay rent or to put food on the table. She was terrified of being homeless, so priority goes to paying rent and utilities. So she told me about the story about eating 1 meal a day. And so I looked at it and I said, you know what? I said, ma'am, unfortunately, this is our last day, but we're going to come back. So that very night, I was very emotional. I was feeling really sad. Then I spoke to my friends. I said, listen, what do you say we do this for another 8 to 10 weeks? And my friends basically said, Jeffrey, if you're on board, we're on board. So we decided to do it for another 8 to 10 weeks. And long and behold, 3 years later, we now have 140 volunteers. Today, we're going to be serving close to 800 people. if you add all the different outreaches that we support, on a weekly basis, we're helping in excess of 1,000 people.
We can probably bump up the bags a bit. Put a couple apples in. We're getting quite a bit of apples. Oranges. So a couple apples.
We're the modern day dumpster divers. So we go to all the food that you see are rescued food because we don't get any government funding. So we go to stores, a lot of it 7 days a week. We rescued food that would otherwise be going into the disposal. The one thing that really kind of resonated with me is Matthew chapter 25, where, you know what, it's very clear we have an obligation to help people that are hungry, they're poor, people that are sick, right? And we probably will not change a lot of what's happening in their lives, but what we try to do, and this is the essence of what we do here, we provide hope. We provide compassion, and we show empathy. We want everybody to feel that they are important because they're important to us, and that's why we're here.
Set up in the same park is Collin Jonathan Alfred, or Chop as he's known to the clients who line up for a free haircut.
You know, every time I give a haircut, especially for free, they come in all like, you know, down on their luck or what may have you, and they come back renewed, you know, because it's a new, fresh haircut. They look fresh, their confidence gets built up. So it's more than just a haircut, it's more of a confidence booster.
What's that, man? You don't get one of those, man. Good seeing you out, man.
Some people who don't even get haircuts and they just come and give me high fives and hugs and stuff. So it's very nice and it's very rewarding.
Look nice, huh? 70.
Nice, yeah.
They actually call this a chop shop, right? So it's like a barber shop, but like outside. And any typical barber shop, anyone who knows, any male that's out there, you know that we have barbershop talk. So what do we talk about? Football, basketball, women, right? Typical conversations you have. Same thing with women when they go to salons. You know, they talk about their different experiences. On the streets, it's different. I feel like we don't talk about these things. We talk about like real life scenarios. When I have conversations with these individuals, they have a very unique perspective on life. And every time I ask them, "Are you here in Hamilton?" They say, "No, I'm in a tent. I'm over here. I lost my sister, lost my wife, lost my son, my father to addiction or this and this. I was in jail." These are conversations you don't have in a typical barbershop. So when we have these conversations out in the streets, it's very impactful because these are conversations that it might happen in a barbershop, but here on the street, that's why I'm a street barber, because I go with the street. I go with the people who are on the street, the neglected, you know, the ones who are, people don't care about them. But I do care about them, and I know that God still cares about them. And when we have these conversations, it opens up to a stranger who's cutting their hair, you know, to have all these conversations in life and what they've been through.
Collin got the idea to give back to his community when he was just 20 years old. He started a nonprofit called Beating the Stereotypes in hopes of changing how people perceived him.
I was 20 at the time. I was stopped over for speeding, brand new car, you know. Well, it wasn't a brand new car, it was my dad's car, but, you know, I was driving and I had an encounter with a police officer. And basically, the officer came towards me and he had his hand on the gun. And, you know, a person with a color, a person who's colored, you know, growing up in a white-dominated neighborhood, it's an everyday reality for me. Fast forward a couple of weeks later, I had a same experience with a lady in Canadian Tire. And at that point, I had it. I didn't want people to look at me a certain way just because of the color of my skin. So that's where Beating the Stereotypes came in. What Beating the Stereotypes entailed was we went out, different community members, you could be Asian, black, even white, doesn't matter. We go out and we serve the homeless and we do good deeds in our community so that people can look at us and say, these people are not the stereotypes, you know, we're in fact beating the stereotypes. And Hamilton was where God guided me. And I've been here ever since, and I give him all the praise. Without him, I wouldn't be here. You know, I've struggled with depression, I've struggled with anxiety, pornography, masturbation, right, even suicide. And I realized that God took me out of it. You know, and when I cried to his feet, cried to the feet of Jesus, he allowed me to be set free. My shackles are no longer on me, and he has allowed me to come here and provide free haircuts for the men in Hamilton. This is where he put me in. This is where I'm going to continue to do my outreach and my ministry. And I always tell people too to continue to believe in God. no matter what the circumstances is, he's the Most High, right? He's here for a reason. All this stuff happens for a reason. So while I give haircuts, I also minister and I also preach as well, because he allowed me to be here, right?
Yeah, that's good. We need God now more than ever.
We sure do.
If the Spirit moves me, that's when I tell them about Christ and God and what he has done for me. And also when people share their experiences. There's a lot of people here in Hamilton who are addicted to fentanyl, heroin, and that new drug, ketamine, mixed with fentanyl. And, they go through their transgressions, they go through their day-to-day lives. And I try to encourage them that it's okay. There is a Savior out there. There is God. You don't have to believe, but let me at least pray for you, or let me at least try to have that conversation.